Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Level Up Watches, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is a spinoff of the Level Up and Friends podcast where those of us from the comic book and video game store Level Up Entertainment in Mays Landing, New Jersey, and soon to be Summers Point, join with some friends and discuss the latest in pop culture entertainment. And if you don't know by now, we're covering The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is heavily spoilers, everything. We're going to go through all of the episode in detail, all the good, all the bad, all the mystery MCU people and cameos and all that stuff. So I'm Harry. I am joined once again by my co-hosts, Kendall. Welcome,
Hello.
Kendall. Welcome. And the only other man who signed up to defend John Walker at his trial, Marvelous Mike.
Oh,
not necessarily because he aligned with his philosophies. It was all for the paycheck.
No. Just everyone deserves a good defense.
It's for the paycheck. So guys, welcome. We are gonna fly through episode 5. This is called Truth, which right off the bat, that is the title, part of the title of the Isaiah Bradley story. It's Truth, Red, White, and Black. So a little tip off that we were probably going to see Isaiah again, and we do. The episode starts right from where we left off last week, where John Walker murdered that guy in just cold blood in the public, and he's running and he gets to a warehouse and he's kind of like freaking out about it, and we see flashbacks of his entire career as Captain America, and he's approached by Bucky and Sam, and they are like, hey man, you made a mistake and maybe they'll take your record into account, but you got to come with us. And I was really surprised they didn't just go in guns blazing. They were trying to kind of like talk him down and whatnot. And he was getting very close. It was a testament to Sam and his ability to kind of talk to people, because I feel like Sam was really getting through to him. And then, Sam said one thing about, hey, you got to give me the shield, man. And that was what it, tipped him off, and he turned and he's like, that's what this is all about, isn't it? And it just kicked off this brutal fight between the three of them over the legacy of Captain America and the shield. And there was, the Falcon Sam's wings were ripped off, and Bucky's arm got disabled in the battle. The score from Civil War was playing in the background. It was very reminiscent of that scene with Bucky and Cap fighting Iron Man. Here's John Walker fighting off both of these guys. Just knockdown, drag out battle. What did you guys think about this and a way to open the episode?
But it was a great way to open the episode. Especially, coming off of, how brutal the end of the previous week's episode was. Mm-hmm. I think that was like my favorite, like, John Walker like moment is when like he like looks down at the shield. He's like, oh, this is what it's all about. It's like, oh shit. This dude's unhinged.
Yeah. Mike, what'd you think?
Another great, like, an intense fight sequence, which again, at least we're not used to, to this level of intensity. And again, you see the real John Walker coming out, that they really tried, as we joked that they sold the memorabilia and everything, but to make him out to be a hero, the new Cap. But as the episodes go on and he gets pushed further into the corner, we see his true colors come out. Most, of course, in this opening scene.
And at one point he's like fighting Bucky. He's like, why are you making me do this? And it's like, dude, you're doing this. Like, it's not, they have nothing to do with it. It's all about you and this shield. And the only way they resolved the situation, Bucky and Sam, in a brutal scene, they had to almost rip his arm off. They like broke his arm to get the shield out. And, the shield clatters on the ground, which, kudos to Marvel's sound department. Like, every time that shield flies through the air or hits the ground, it's got this really satisfying, like, metallic sound to it, which I really like. But yeah, they eventually separate Walker from the shield, and then Sam using the shield and Bucky kind of flings Walker into the shield. They team up and knock each other, knock him out, and everybody falls down. And Bucky grabs the shield, gives it to Sam, walks away, and then there's this great, like, harrowing scene of Sam. He's holding the shield, and there's still the dried blood on it from the flag smasher, and Sam's just trying to, like, wipe off the blood, from the shield. And it's this quiet moment. It's really quick, blink and you miss it. But like, it's one of my favorite and most powerful scenes, I think, in this episode, if not the whole show. It's just like Sam, I think, is feeling that guilt that, he's partially responsible for the shield ending up in Walker's hands. And now there's blood on that shield. And no matter how hard Sam's trying to rub it off, that blood is not getting off the shield. It's not going anywhere. I just thought it was a great clip there as we went to the title sequence.
And again, shows the nobility of our heroes, that you're right, they did go in, not guns blazing, but trying to, not excuse, but be like, you lost hold of yourself. Look, let's not make it worse. Let's go back. And like you said, Walker not having any of it. And of course, that's the theme, not jumping to the conclusion, not jumping to people's worst instincts. But as we saw in the previous week with Carly, it ended in the same way that it did in episode 5.
Mm-hmm. And like, that's our big action set piece for this episode. I feel like after that, the rest of this episode almost feels like an epilogue to the series rather than the penultimate episode. We get a lot of quiet moments, a lot of character stuff here, but this was like the big action moment. And then it almost reminds me of episode 1, where it's just much more quieter after that, kind of setting the stage for the next episode.
Episode 6 better be at least an hour and a half, though.
Well, who knows? I mean, it's still very open as to whether this is a one and done, if this is going to be an ongoing thing, what they're setting up for future movies. It's not really set in stone. As WandaVision, I think they came out ahead of time. They're like, it's done after one series. We'll see what happens. So we get kind of a debrief between Sam and Torres, who was his partner with the Air Force, I think, from the first few episodes. We haven't seen him in a little while. He's basically telling Sam, like, look, there's not much we can do. Carly's lost the wind. There's nothing we can do until there's something to do. And I think the moment of consequence in this conversation is at one point they're looking over Sam's broken wings, and Torres is like, well, what happened to these, and are you going to take these with you? And Sam leaves with the shield, and he looks back at Torres and he says, keep them. And I had mentioned it in episode 1 when we first met him, but Joaquin Torres is the Falcon during Sam's time as Captain America in the comic book. So, is this setting up a new Falcon? Is it just kind of a throwback? It reminded me of the James Rhodes, like, next time, baby, in Iron Man 1 kind of thing. So we'll see what happens there. Keep an eye on that. All right, let's get to the trial of John Walker. And, it's funny because I wrote down in my notes, this happened very quickly for a trial. Usually takes months and months and months to try to get them arranged.
Full claims goes that fast.
Right. It was just instantly. And, John is dressed down in his army, I guess he's got a suit on and his medals, and his wife / girlfriend, we don't know who she is still, is there with him. And he's just getting a dressing down by the senators and the board. They're basically saying, look, you are going to be stripped of all titles. You are no longer going to act as Captain America. You are going to be discharged other than honorably in retirement. You'll hold no rank. You'll hold no titles. And like, they're just stripping this guy of everything. And there was a little bit of sympathy where he kind of stands up for himself at one point. He's like, well, can I present my evidence, or can I present any testimony? And the senator's just like, no, there's nothing you could say. And, it's a little like, well, this guy didn't have a chance to even talk, really. He just kind of got his butt handed to him. But that kind of ticks him off, and he slams on the desk. And, once again, like Kendall, like you said, you start to kind of maybe feel something for this guy, and then he just ruins it. He snaps, and he's slamming the table, and he's like, I am Captain America, right there in front of the panel. And that doesn't go over very well. And I wrote down here, like, I think Walker has said, I am Captain America in this show more times than Steve Rogers ever did in 22 plus movies. It's like, he has to tell everyone, I am Captain America. It's that much of his identity. And it goes over like a lead balloon. It really shows no humility, no apologies about it. Just kind of, he accuses them of, this is what you made, you built me, and I was following orders and all of that. And, to an extent, you're like, well, maybe he has a point. I mean, he's kind of just getting the job done, but he also did cut some corners in order to get there. He didn't have the authorization to act in this other country. What do you guys think of the trial scene before we get to the after trial cameo?
They did not know he took the super serum, correct?
They don't mention it here, so we don't know.
So my thinking was, if they had known that, would they have let him go as they did? Or does he now do they fear that he becomes an enemy of the state, knowing how strong he is, and now we've just, pissed him off, for lack of a better term, that will come back to bite us. So that was my thought, that if they had known that he had taken the serum, would the result have been the same?
Good point. Good
Yeah.
point.
Alternatively, I wonder if they knew, them knowing he took the serum, maybe there would have been like a public thing, but maybe the government would have been like, oh, well, like, we got this super soldier in our pocket now.
Right. No, he's useful to us.
Yeah.
Kendall, that's a great point, because while I was watching this scene, I was like, Steve Rogers broke a lot of rules during his tenure as Captain America, including, failing to sign the Sokovia Accords and actively undermining them in his actions in Civil War. And he never got this sort of like stripping of the title and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know if it was because, they feel like, well, where are you going to put a guy like Steve Rogers in terms of any kind of disciplinary action or anything like that? Or, maybe we'll need him later and we got to kind of stash him away. So good point, Kendall. Very good. Outside of the courtroom, we see John talking to.
I do love a good courtroom drama, though, so I do enjoy that scene.
we hear John talking to his significant other, and he's kind of like, oh, they don't know how hard it is to be Captain America. Feel bad for me. And in walks, the camera starts on these like high heel boots, and it starts panning up, and it's this lady with these like mirrored sunglasses on, and she takes them off, and she's like, hey, they don't know how hard. You're right. You're absolutely right. They don't know how hard it is. And you look at it, and it's like, that is Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld fame. So yeah, very exciting. Marvelous Mike, what was your first thoughts when you saw her appear?
I love her. I'm a big fan. One of the great comedic actresses of our time. So it was lovely to see. I still want to know who she is, and you won't tell me.
So this cameo was a huge surprise. It was kept very, very well kept secret by Marvel, by the MCU. Nobody really knew there was any kind of celebrity cameo coming like this. I didn't see anything reported like you usually would. And she introduces herself as Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, or you can call her Val for short. She is a character in the Marvel Comics. We don't know what she's doing here, because she kind of introduces herself to Walker. She says that there are people that she knows that he took the serum. There are people that consider him very valuable because he took the serum. And she gives him a blank business card and it's like, hey, just make sure you answer the phone when I call you. And then, she leaves, and she's got a lot of character, a lot of charisma. I mean, before I give a little bit of comics history for Val, Mike, do you have any predictions, any guesses as to who she may be?
Well, thought she again going tied back to the power broker. In terms of saying you're very valuable to people out there. And again, he hates Carly now, and power broker hates Carly, and can she use him to that end?
Kendall, do you have any background with Val? I had to look her up. I honestly, I wasn't sure.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, did you really?
Yeah, I did. I didn't, it just didn't jump out to me. I didn't read the comics that she was involved with.
So I definitely recognize the name. I did not look up who exactly she was.
True fan.
I've got it.
I have, my thoughts were like, Madam Hydra or Madam Mask.
Madam Mask was my first guess. That was
Okay.
that's what I thought, because we had Madripoor, so I thought maybe
Yeah, I
Madam,
was like,
Madam
I
Mask.
was like, what character would fit this?
Yeah,
because I've definitely seen that name.
yeah. So Val has had a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different histories in the Marvel universe as creators kind of pick her up and use her. She was very involved with Shield and the Nick Fury comics, and she was almost like the love interest slash best agent of Shield that Nick Fury had. She helped defend Shield from the replicants, which we have secret invasion on the horizon where Skrulls are going to invade. We know that involves Samuel L. Jackson is involved with that project. So is she a Shield? Skrulls from Captain Marvel, the shape-shifting aliens. Yes. So she was also involved in that secret invasion storyline. She her death kind of kicked everything off because she was a Skrull. But it goes deeper than that, because not only did she work from Shield, but she also worked for Hydra. She did take on the title of Madam Hydra for a while. She worked for both at the same time. And then she also worked for Leviathan, which was the organization that helped do the Russian secret super soldiers of their own, and the secret the Black Widow program and things like that. So she's got ties to Black Widow, she's got ties to Hydra, ties to Shield. She and Sharon Carter were on like an all-female Shield team for a while. So there are so many different avenues.
You mean her and the Power Broker?
There are so many different avenues they could take this Val character, but what it seems to be here in the context of this show is she's putting together a team, and she wants John Walker to be a part of that team, and it feels like Nick Fury from early end of Iron Man, pre-Avengers times, where she's going to go up to all these different villains maybe and assemble a team, which may lead right into Marvelous Mike's prediction from episode 1 of a Thunderbolts team.
I was laughed at, I was mocked, the trolls had their way in the comments section, and now here we are 5 weeks later,
building that foundation slowly but surely. Val and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is rumored to be in a few more future Marvel projects. I'm not going to get into the specifics because I don't want to spoil future things for people, but she is tied to some things that are coming down the pike. So keep an eye out for this Val character. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned. So next we catch up with Bucky and Zemo. Bucky leaves to go find Zemo. He catches up with him at the Sokovia Memorial. And Zemo sort of gives us the classic, you don't know, Carly, she's going to be bad, and you need to do what takes to be done, and Sam doesn't want to do that. Trying to kind of get in Bucky's head. Bucky tells him, we're going to do things our way, kind of fakes him out with a fake gun to his head, doesn't really have the bullets in there, whole thing. So kind of messing with Zemo a little bit. And then Bucky turns him over to the Dora Milaje, and they pick him up, start taking him, and they say to Bucky that he's going to spend the rest of his days at the Raft, which is the underwater prison from Civil War, where they took Captain America's team when they had captured them. I was really surprised that I think Zemo is getting off easy here, because usually when you mess with Wakanda, you're getting Wakandan justice, you're going to Wakanda jail, you're going through Wakanda courts, and they killed King T'Chaka. So for them to just kind of ferry him over to the Raft, which is not under Wakandan jurisdiction as far as I know, I was really surprised that that's going to be his end result. But I'm sure if he's going to somewhere as secure as the Raft, which never had any breakouts ever, we'll never see Zemo ever again. Which is fine with me, because I hope that we do get him back, and he was a great character through this. But it was interesting that here we are, episode 5, we're tying off I think the Zemo storyline and the Dora Milaje, and they're kind of done. So we'll see what happens before they leave.
Is there a known plot to the second Black Panther movie?
Not that I'm aware of. Kendall, do you know of any? I think
I typically don't look into that stuff.
Yeah, the death of Chadwick Boseman too probably threw things all out of order for them. There are storylines where
this will maybe tie in somehow.
Maybe. But I was, like I said, I was surprised that they didn't take him straight to Wakanda. And, Zemo should be thanking his lucky stars that they aren't taking him straight to Wakanda, because that could have been rough times. Bucky asks Io for one more favor, even though she just got done telling him, like, hey, you might not want to come around Wakanda too much in the future. And, he's pushing his luck, though. He's like, hey, I need you to do one more thing for me. So we don't know what that is at the time. I do want to back up for a quick second. One more thing on Val. She drops an interesting nugget to Walker and says that, hey, did you know that the shield of Captain America is not technically U.S. property? And that's kind of how she leaves him. And she says, it's not the government's property. So Mike, as our resident, Esquire, who does the shield belong to? Well, how does this work? Finders keepers law? I mean, what do we do?
Yes, that would be finders keepers, 30 days if you don't do a reasonable search to find the true owner. But I guess I don't want to go to The Hague and argue this out in the international courts, though.
Okay, all right. Well, that's something I think that they did on purpose, in terms of, now the shield is with Sam. The government was asking Walker to turn over the shield during his trial. He was like, oh, you got to give it back to us. So they don't know where it is. So it'll be interesting to see sort of the ownership of the shield issue, and if that comes up in episode 6. Sam, he's on his own fact-finding mission. He goes to see Isaiah Bradley, and he wants to get more information. And this is where we get sort of Isaiah's backstory and some of the things we already talked about the first time we met Isaiah. But he does go into what happened to him, basically that he was given, he and his fellow African-American soldiers were given different variations of the super soldier serum. And they were told it was tetanus. They were told it was booster shots, different things. And some of them died. Some of them were doing okay, but they were still kind of unstable. And a group of them got captured while on a mission. And Isaiah was not a part of that group, but he heard the superiors saying that they were just going to blow up the POW camp because they wanted to get rid of the evidence. And Isaiah said, those weren't evidence. Those are my brothers. Those are my soldiers. So he decided to take it upon himself to go and break them out. And he was successful. He saved those men. He brought them back. In return for doing that, they threw Isaiah in jail for 30 years, experimented on him, allowed Hydra to experiment on him, which I don't understand how the custody of Isaiah and where Hydra stepped in, but they also did experiments. And basically he had to fake his own death through a sympathetic nurse in order to escape and get out. And he's still declared dead. His wife passed away while he was in jail. And the world at large doesn't know what he did, even though the act of him going against orders, breaking out these prisoners, is the first thing that created Steve Rogers' Captain America legacy. That's the first thing Steve did. He broke out Bucky and all those guys in the first Avenger. It was celebrated for Steve. For Isaiah, he was thrown in jail and experimented on. And, and he starts dropping these bombs on Sam like, hey, you can try all you want, but they're not going to accept the Black Captain America. The country's not ready for it yet, and no self-respecting Black man would even want to be Captain America. And it was a really strong scene between the two of them. Great actors, well acted out, but gave Sam a lot to think about, and we got to see why Isaiah feels the way he does about the legacy of that shield. You guys have anything about Isaiah, the second interaction?
Not particularly. I mean, it was very powerful. And I can definitely see and understand where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely check out Truth, Red, White, and Black if you want more Isaiah Bradley.
And is his whole story arc really to give Sam an eye-opening look as to what he's fighting for, and then make that final decision if he wants to take up the mantle, which I think we spoke about it last week, that Marvel needed to have a John Walker Captain America before it gave it to Sam. Mm-hmm. So that you could see if, all right, you're not ready for a Black Captain America, well, here's another white Captain America, and look what happened to that.
Yeah.
So I think that whole, thread is also very important in this conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, here's a man who he's fought with the Avengers. He's been a paramedic before that. He was did everything he could for his country, and it only makes logical sense that he would be sort of the next successor to Captain America. And I still can't get over, and I hope that they address this in the next episode, where he turns the shield over to the government, and the senator says, "Oh, Sam, you're doing the right thing. This is great." Doesn't even ask him, "Hey, did you ever think about being Captain America for us," or anything like that, and takes the shield from Sam, and then like in the very next breath hands it over to Walker. So Isaiah may have a very good point, because we've seen the way Sam has been treated recently with this whole legacy of Captain America.
For sure.
So
Never a thought.
No, he wasn't even approached, wasn't even asked. So Will, if he does take up the mantle, which it looks like that's this direction it's going in this episode, will he have the blessing or the approval of the United States government to take on this title? Yeah, something to think about, something to watch out for.
But then you say, well, it's not like Iron Man or even Winter Soldier. It is Captain America. It is inextricably linked to the U.S. So how do you have a Captain America that is not backed by the government?
I mean, yeah, let's continue on, and then I'll give my thesis.
Okay, all right. Sam returns home. He's going back to Louisiana, check in with Sarah. We get this great, interactions between them. They're trying to fix up the boat, but his nephews say, "Hey, the boat's we can't sell the boat anymore because it's gonna cost more to fix than it would be to be in its current worth." And Sam explains to Sarah that the government has benched them. So I don't know if that means, the Sokovia Accords are in some way still in effect, and the government still does have a say over the Avengers and the Vigilantes and this and that, or if he means they've benched them in terms of like his Air Force unit from episode 1. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure out what the legal status of these superheroes are post Civil War and Endgame and everything. But basically, we get this great montage of Sam and Sarah's community coming together, and Sam's like, Mom and Dad did a lot of things for the community. It's time to start calling in some favors, and it's just like down
like
south.
George Bailey, that bringing in, Harry comes in, they raise a toast. That's what I was thinking of. The money pouring out of Mr. Martini's jukebox.
The Southern hospitality, the South, and specifically the Black South. I mean, they did a really great job of trying to show that this community, when called upon, can come together to help each other, and that it's important to them. And Bucky shows back up again, and we see that he's holding a briefcase, and he says, "This is a gift from Wakanda." Sam doesn't open it right away, but Bucky's like, "All right, well, I just came to drop off this briefcase. I'll be going. I'll probably have to stay at some hotel somewhere," and just kind of beating around the bush. And Sam's like, "Oh, come on, you could crash on my couch." And then he sees Sarah, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Bucky. You see this arm?" It's like, whoa. And Sam's kind of like, "Oh, that's my sister, man. Just be careful. That's my sister." Great interactions. I think some of my favorite parts of this series is sort of Sam and Bucky in their day-to-day lives at home. And I think we get some great scenes between Bucky interacting with Sam's nephews and all that. And it's like, this is Bucky sort of finding peace, for the first time since he's been unearthed from the Winter Soldier program. We see him smile at one point. They're fixing the boat. He's lifting up everything that Sam can't lift up, which is great. But yeah, it's nice to see Bucky happy, and it's nice to see Sam sort of getting back to his community again. A little feel good music too. I enjoyed the music choice here.
Yeah, for sure.
Jazziness.
It would have been more appropriate if they all sang "Auld Lang Syne" as a bell rang, but I guess, whatever. A
little bit of a different story here. Sarah gives Sam a bit of a pep talk, because like Isaiah Bradley's still kind of in his head, and she's like, "You're not gonna let Isaiah dictate who you're gonna be. You're gonna be who you want to be." And and you can see that it's working out. I really like the interactions between Sam and Sarah, and I feel like I believe that these two are siblings. Like it's almost like the actors are, have this familial bond already, even though it's the first season of the show. It's only a few episodes long. They do a great job of just sort of that like playful jabbing each other that you see. So we do catch up with Walker. He goes to Hoskins' parents, his old partner, and he explains to them that, hey, I'm sorry about what happened. I did everything I could. And they ask him straight up. They're like, so the guy you killed is the guy who killed Lamar, right? Right? And Walker just looks at them and he's like, yeah, yep. Mm-hmm. I killed the guy. Mm-hmm. And, just to lay the guilt on a little bit more, Hoskins' parents are like, okay, Lamar can sleep easily. He's at peace now. He got his justice. And Walker, you just see Walker just kind of like twitching, because he's just straight up lying to these people. And, he's walking around and he sees the old poster on the wall. It's John Walker is Captain America. And it's starting to eat at him. You could see it. And where is he going to end up? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Did you notice, I think it was his Lamar's sister, though? Like, she wasn't buying it.
Yeah, they looked a little skeptical of the story here.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I liked Hoskins. This now, I guess, confirms he is officially dead. I kind of was hoping he would like recover and John did all of this for nothing. But I just liked the character, and I thought that he made a good counterpoint to John Walker. We get a quick blink and you miss it scene where Sharon Carter is on the phone with someone, and she's like, hey, I'm going to get you out of that Algerian prison, but you got to do this mission for me. And, the guy's screaming in French, and she's got a job for this person, but it's not really clear who she's talking to. I mean, I guess you could guess because there is an Algerian person that we've met already in this show. But very, very shady things going on with Sharon Carter right now. She's got one more mission for this guy. I'm just trying to move us along here. So we see that Sam and Bucky have a great scene where they decide to start kind of talking through the beef while they're throwing Cap's shield and practicing with it. And they've tied like mattresses and foam around the trees so that it bounces off. And Bucky apologizes to Sam and says, look, Steve and I didn't realize what we were asking when we asked you, a black man, to take on this legacy and to hold the shield. And, I'm sorry that I was so hard about it. I understand it now and I get it. And, they kind of reconcile that part of their relationship, and it's all while they're throwing the shield, which is great. And then Sam tells Bucky, hey, you've got to stop letting other people dictate who you are. He's always just kind of been following the latest orders, the marching orders, and he's never been his own person. And he's like, you're still having nightmares? And Bucky says, yeah. And Sam suggests that he tries to give someone closure, not necessarily go and fight bad people, for these people on his list, but actually talk to somebody and give them some sort of closure. And Bucky's like, well, I've got a lot of names on this list. And Sam said, that's great. Just start with one. And I think once again, we see Sam's ability to sort of provide counsel and guidance and walk people through tough times, and just his skills as he's a better therapist for Bucky than Bucky's therapist was.
Oh, for sure.
So I thought that was a great scene between the two of them. And it's sort of this official bearing the hatchet, and they walk away, and they're still kind of tough with each other. Like, well, we're not friends. We're going to be coworkers. All right. Maybe not partners. We're not partners. We're not a team, but we're going to, but Bucky does say, if you ever need me, call me, I'll be there, which is great to see. It's like, oh, these guys, they're getting along. Now we get Bucky or Sam just kind of training with the shield, and it's this great origin scene.
Before we get to when he runs up the steps of the art gallery, he's throwing the shield around with Bucky, no problem. when it's the two of them. And now all of a sudden he can't catch it, he can't throw it. Well, everything that he was doing 5 minutes earlier is out the window now.
It's like performance anxiety, man. Like you do better when somebody when Captain America's bestie's right next to you. You're like, oh, you're really concentrating. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I like that the first time they threw it, it got stuck in a tree, and he was like, "Oh, we've got to wrap these trees in something." But yeah, he's having a hard time. He can't catch it. He can't. It's like almost taken off his head at one point. He's trying to get it to reflect it and ricochet back to him, and that's hard. All the things that it seemed like it all came so easily to Walker because they showed like that quick montage and he's throwing the shield around and all this stuff. You see Sam actually has to kind of work at it and train. And I think that helps you as a viewer feel like, all right, I'm rooting for this guy. I really want him to succeed. And I want to see Sam get better with the shield. And, he's running and he's working out. And, it's tough because you're like, well, you are still just human. If somebody shoots you at one point, like you're done. I mean, and it's just kind of like you appreciate how much more work Sam has to put into this because he's not enhanced in any way. And by the end of the montage, he's getting it. I mean, he's doing flips and throwing the shield and catching it on the flip, and it just seems like he kind of has it down now, which is pretty cool. And his nephews, there's a great moment where his nephew's like tracing the star on the shield, and it's like, well, representation, it matters, man. It's great to see. So
on that note, I need to leave you two fine gentlemen, and I'm sorry I cannot finish to the end. I do want to say though that MCU, Disney, and Sony, I did read about the big announcement today. So we can talk about that at the end, but I'm on top of my Marvel news.
I didn't read this announcement.
Yeah, well, I didn't read it all. I just saw the headline.
They're wheeling and dealing to get the MCU all under one roof, under the Disney Plus roof, and get some of the Spider-Man movies over there so you can actually have like a Marvel marathon with one streaming service.
So, but that's all I'll say on that. Enjoy the rest of the episode, everybody. I'll see you for the big finale next week.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Later, dude.
So there's really only one major scene left that I wanted to talk about, and that's the GRC scene where they're trying to discuss what to do with the Patch Act, and everybody's meeting together, and Carly meets up with Batroc the Leaper, which is that who Sharon was talking to on the phone?
He sure is French,
right? So
I'm bummed we didn't see his silly costume.
I know. They've got like the purple and yellow thing going for him, like the colors are there, but he doesn't have like the crazy jacket and the giant boots and all that stuff. He's giving them basically like a mini arsenal in this suitcase, and Carly's friends, other Flag Smashers, are like, are you sure you want to do this? This isn't what we're about. And Carly's just she's like, nope, they won't listen anymore. I don't care. This is the only thing we could do. We've lost so many people at this point. And it's interesting because Batroc's like, his only stake in this, he's like, I want to kill Sam Wilson, because I guess Sam cost him some major deal in the episode 1 when they fought. So is he working with Sharon Carter? Are we getting some kind of confrontation between Sam, Bucky, the Flag Smashers, and Batroc? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Episode 6.
A lot to address in the last episode.
Yeah. So the very last scene is Carly sort of activating her followers, through the phone, and there's a couple people that sneak into the GRC summit that they have all these world leaders talking about how they're going to move these refugees around, and all of a sudden the computer screens go all glitchy and the lights all turn red, and you see that clearly the Flag Smashers have infiltrated the GRC. Torres picks up on it, warns Sam. Sam already has it on TV because in these shows all they do is watch CNN or some 24-hour news all day. It's always right there. And so Sam's like, I'm on it, I've already got it. And then we see Sam go to the briefcase. He opens the briefcase, but the back of the briefcase is to the camera, so we don't get to see inside. And that's where it looks like the episode ends. Oh, yeah. But we do get a mid-credits scene in this episode. After we get the regular credits, and then we hear cling, 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 kind of like a throwback to the Iron Man 1. When he's building his first suit of armor. And we see, and it's John Walker basically doing a YouTube tutorial on how to cosplay as Captain America, build your own shield. He's building the little rings, and he's using his service metals to kind of melt them down into it. He's spraying it, and he's coloring it, and it's a Captain America shield, same colors and everything. So Walker is not giving up, that mantle or that shield that easily, and that's where it leaves us. So. Yeah, I mean, Kendall, overall thoughts. I mean, we've got so much to try to wrap up in episode 6.
Yeah, for real. Real quick about Sam.
Yeah.
So, talking with Isaiah Bradley, that was like a very powerful scene.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, why would a Black person want to be Captain America? But this episode really drove home just how similar Sam and Carly are, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you saw when they went to where were they? Latvia? When they went to
the
wherever.
camp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just how like, it was these group of people who like were let down by government power, and they all like came together, community.
Yeah.
And then even I think it was the flag smasher who John Walker killed.
Mm-hmm. We found out his name is Nico.
Nico, not Captain America fan.
Captain America fan. Got a name for him.
He was like, you to Carly. He was like,
yeah,
you could be Captain America. And, in this episode, we see Sam, who in the first episode, despite all he's done, let down by society. But in this episode, he's able to like rally the community, much like Carly did.
Yeah.
And Sam also had a dead friend. Well, Captain America dead, whatever. Time
still weird. It's still like they Bucky and Sam have a conversation about it. And I was like, all right, well, maybe we'll find out now. Is he dead? Is he dead? And they're like, Steve's gone. And I'm like, well, that could mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
Comic book rules. I need to see a body.
Yeah, for real. That it's so confusing. But yeah, who's like,
no, that's a great point.
Gave him the shield and was like, you can be Captain America. And like, I thought it was awesome. As soon as Sam asked Io for that favor, I was like, oh man, is it gonna be a suit?
Yes.
And then, like, he comes with the thing. I'm like, dang, like I was so hyped for that briefcase to be open.
It's gotta be the Captain America Falcon suit, right? Like that's what
really
it's gotta be. So. And it's so interesting because now it seems like between Bucky's arm, the vibranium in the shield, Falcon's costume, it seems like Wakanda and / Shuri is going to take the role of like Tony Stark, of being like the official outfitter of the heroes.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if that costume is made out of like straight vibranium, like, it doesn't matter.
Problems.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if Sam is mortal underneath. That would help a lot. But yeah, I really hope we get sort of that Cap Falcon, costume. And I know he kind of gave up the wings and was like, I don't need them. But, to see him with the wings and the shield together, like, I think that's
I want him to have both.
Yeah, that's a great look.
Because, like, I want him to be, I want Sam to be Captain America. Like, especially after this episode, I was like, I need this man to be
all in on Anthony Mackie, all in on Sam Wilson.
Yeah. But I don't want him to not be the Falcon at the same time. You know what I mean? I want him to be able to be like, all right, here's the Captain America who can fly.
Yeah.
Like, this is who he is. You know what I mean?
I want to make sure that I
just don't want him to be like the third version.
Exactly. Make it your own. Make it's Sam Wilson Captain America, not Sam trying to be Steve, but it's make it his own fighting style, his own, he has so much experience with those wings, and we've seen through this series that he's incorporated, having the wings and the jetpack into his fighting. That it only makes sense, to have that also incorporated in your next costume.
Yeah, it would be a real shame to like lose out on that.
Yeah. But I honestly, I hope that we tied off the John Walker stuff and they leave whatever this tease is for the next Marvel, maybe another Marvel movie project or another season. But like, I hope we're done with Zemo. I hope we're done with Wakanda, and I hope we're done with John Walker, just so that episode 6 can be a focus on Sam, Bucky, Flag Smashers, Batroc, and let's resolve that issue in the hour. And then, these other things, maybe Sharon Carter revealed as the power broker or whatever. But let's deal with that and then leave things open for future installments. Because if that's the last we see of Walker, it's going to be like, oh man, when's he going to show up again? Where is he going to be? Same with Val. Where is she going to show up again? Like, is it going to be like Nick Fury seeded through these movies of, she goes up to every villain and leaves them a blank card?
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah, we're building up Marvel's Suicide Squad or, the Thunderbolts or something. So
yeah, I mean, between that scene and, Io basically like turning to the camera, we're taking him to the RAF, wink. like between those two scenes, it really feels like they're building like a Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
And
which I'll never hear the end of it from Mike ever.
That's amazing.
Ever. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have a lot to talk about next week to wrap up. I think as a whole, do you feel, because I have seen some criticisms about Marvel / Disney and their handling of some of the more sensitive issues in the show. Do you feel that they're doing an adequate job, that they're kind of the criticism that I've seen is that they're presenting Sam as sort of this centrist figure, as to not make too many fans angry that fall on either side of the spectrum.
I see it.
And so, you can kind of see it too. But I think they've done a good job of having Sam say, at least, to other characters, like, look, I'm pissed off too. I feel like, I'm not represented. I'm forgotten about. Again, maybe we'll get into this if the government tries to come in and stop him from being Captain America. But I mean, I just wanted to ask you, since I have you on, we're kind of coming to the end of the series. Do you feel like they're doing an adequate job with some of the more sensitive topics?
So I definitely see how there would be criticism about that. I do think, as far as everything Sam says, he is, very understanding, and in his heart is on the side. But I can see how his actions, like, they'd be like, oh, like, but at the same time, like, Sam is a soldier, you know what I mean? So, but maybe this is like his turning point, like, because this whole time he's been, with the exception of the whole Sokovia Accords, this whole time he's been, working for the American government, basically.
Yeah. Or just a sidekick, like not his own character.
Yeah. And I would like to see this, and this is something that's been like in the comics many times, but like, America isn't its government. America is its people. And I think, like, if that is Sam's rallying cry, like, because Captain America doesn't have to be a government tool,
Right. Yeah.
So I think if, like, Sam, like, if it goes in that direction, like, Sam's great.
It's gonna be good. Yeah, this episode is definitely made me much more of a Sam Wilson fan. I think that, I criticized him earlier for kind of not taking a stand and just sort of getting led around by other people. But it seems like here he's making affirmative decisions that may have consequences, and he's going to take them, when they come. But he's the one making these choices, sort of taking his own advice that he gave to Bucky, instead of letting other people define who he is and who he can't be.
Yeah. Speaking of Bucky, I hope we get a scene with that the man from the first episode.
Yep.
I hope we get to like see it.
Yeah.
I feel like that can be like emotional, but like we said, like this next episode has a lot of work to do.
It does. And I hope we see Bucky just find some level of happiness and peace too, because I mean that's not going to be a fun conversation. I mean, hi, I'm the guy who killed your son that you've been grieving for years, and I bought you soup the other week, and I didn't tell you. It's just like, it's an impossible conversation to have, and
for sure.
It's going to be really, really rough. But I think Bucky had a taste of what a stable home life could be in his time with Sam's family. Playing with the kids and seeing that community. I think that I hope that he finds some level of that, somewhere between, the end of this series and wherever they're going to use him next.
Yeah. I'm real stoked.
Yeah.
It's
been good. It's been good overall. All right. So before I let you go, any predictions for episode 6? What's the end fate of Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers?
So going into, I don't so much have a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
But here's maybe like what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying earlier, like Sam and Carly are very similar. And like there's a part of me that kind of wants to see like Carly figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, maybe it's more interesting to like have her be like, as committed as Sam is,
right,
in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah. I could definitely see a situation where Sam and or Bucky have the upper hand in whatever battle with Carly, and Sam has to make the decision of to either kill her or to let her go, or detain her in some way. And Sam's going to be the one facing that choice, and I think he's going to have maybe the U.S. government or somebody on his one shoulder saying end her, and on the other side he's going to have sort of that conversation that he had with her before, where she's redeemable, there's some good there. And I'm kind of hoping that the series ends with Sam making that choice. I assume he's going to choose to save her. Otherwise, he's going down a John Walker path. But the consequences of what that choice is, because I'm sure the stance of the U.S. government would be, you've got to either end her or detain her and show, how tough we are on these terrorists and murderers. And I think, like we were talking about before, Sam being his own person and showing that Captain America is not necessarily a puppet of the government is going to make his own call there and possibly even let her go. So I'm kind of hoping it ends there, and then we'll deal with whatever consequences of that decision, in season 2 or whatever.
Yeah. Cause like, Harley, she's going at things like the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think her fight is important. It's as important as anything else going on in the MCU. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what? Carly goes to jail, and like, who's gonna like pick up that? And,
yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot. There's
a lot. So this has been episode 5 of Level Up Watches, our penultimate episode. Next week we will have the finale for you. Thank you very much, Kendall, for joining me on the show, and thanks Mike for his time earlier, and we will see everyone next week for the finale. Can't wait. All right, take care everybody. To be continued.
Bye.